hello, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Ball Up Top, a women's basketball podcast provided by No Cap Space. Andrew, Shawnee, and a special guest. Do you want to do the clue bomb, Shawnee, or do I do it?
Whoa.
The Ringer WNBA show host, Seerat Sohi. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a long time coming, having you on Ball Up Top. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited. You guys have I've had Tyler on, I've had Shawnee on, I'm having you on tomorrow. Spoiler alert, a little teaser.
Like
a little
the
teaser
teaser?
for the people, a little home action.
There's just been some plotting
Yeah,
behind my back. Okay.
You're on the bench. You're on the bench for now. Yeah.
I finally got pulled up with, my massive 262 person following on Blue Sky currently. You just, those are analytics that you can't pass up when the opportunity gives it to you.
No, I was working my way up. Like I figured I'd have Shawnee and Tyler on and then you would notice me.
Sure.
Yeah. I actually should have Shawnee on. I should just be talking to you about South Carolina, making you just like drag your heels onto the podcast like Charlie Brown,
Oh
yeah. Do you want Andrew? I'm sorry to do this right now.
No, do it. Take the show. I love
Is that what you want? Is that what you want,
I'm just
Shawnee?
a little curious because I don't really feel like I deserve this. Like, there's really nothing I've ever done to deserve this type of energy. I'm baffled as to how this has come to my doorstep. Truly, not understanding.
Why do bad things happen to good people? Shawnee asks after investigating her tweets from the last 6 months.
Responsible for this.
Yeah, it's like the Eric Andre meme.
Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Me reaping versus me sowing.
Oh, this fucking sucks. Fuck.
Well, taking the stick out of my bicycle spokes.
I'm thinking, see, this is where I need Tyler, who, by the way, is out with a cough. He had his Jordan flu game with the Ariel Atkins trade to the Chicago Sky, which we will talk about. It's on our YouTube. You can check it out. We only felt it right to give him a night off. But honestly, I'm flailing, guys, because I was like, how am I going to do a home field read and segue out of that gracefully? This is about as good as I can do. So, folks, of course, as always, we are presented by Home Field. It's tournament time. They got great gear. Something you should buy. Rep your favorite team. Use NoCap15 to get your first Home Field purchase 15% off. And, of course, subscribe to our Substack as well. No Cap Space. We got the paid ball knower tier. And you'll get things like what we're about to talk about, guys, because Jeff Pagliocca and the Chicago Sky are at it again in the white vans. I don't know if I love or hate this trade that sends the third pick in the 2025 WNBA draft over to the Washington Mystics, a pick swap for first rounders in 2027 in exchange for Ariel Atkins. Shawnee, just because I feel like I haven't heard you on the show in a while, love this, hate this, and maybe you can say love in a hateful way if you do love it.
Not my show. Not my team. I don't care what they do. From a technical standpoint, I don't hate it. You got a bunch of vets surrounding them. You have people, I've seen people kind of breaking down the stats like, oh, they don't score a lot or they don't do this and they don't do that. And I'm kind of like, that might be better for Angel and Camilla's development, especially if they're both playing in their respective leagues right now. You have Camilla developing overseas. You have Angel developing within Unrivaled. They come back with a different skill set. You don't want people coming in to dominate the ball. You want people to come in and be the safety valve. People to come in to take the pressure off of them. People to come in and give entry passes. You don't want people to come in and think it's their show and want to dominate. And you also, with that third pick, right? You could get a great pick, but it would still take a second to get the pick acclimated to the W. So it's you don't know who that third pick is going to turn into when it manifests itself as a human. I'm a Thunder fan, so at some point the pick's got to turn into people, and sometimes it's better theoretically than it is in actuality.
Working out for the Thunder.
Yeah, but I mean, we lost Russell Westbrook, so You know.
Yeah, which is why you're in the position that you're in today. Not to turn this into an NBA podcast.
No, okay, hold on. Because it's one thing to talk about the Cox, but when you come talking about Russell Westbrook, like now we gotta. I might have to edit that out because that's.
How does it feel that a Canadian is the best point guard in Oklahoma City Thunder history? How does that feel?
He's the best small forward. What are you talking about in Thunder history? Like that's his natural position, and he is the best at it. So I don't know what you're talking about. But Canada.
Hey, it's been a good week for Canada.
I was going to say, solid week for Canada.
Yeah.
You guys won that fight, right?
Yeah, we did.
One fight, won the hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
Cassandra Prosper getting some good Notre Dame minutes.
Nice.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the shadow freshman of the year campaign for Silas Swords, like in full effect in certain corners.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Canada's kind of coming up positive right now.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, what do you think? Are we loving or hating Chicago's offseason right now?
You know, love and hate exist in a very similar part of the brain, according to Tumblr. So I'm kind of that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I can see this from every possible side. And we texted about this a little bit, and we're like, initially I hated it. Because I was like, you know, you don't want to give up the number 3 pick, especially on the heels of the night that Sonia Citron just had. I feel like there's like when we talk about this trade, historically, right? Like, we're gonna have to remember the fact that the likely number 3 pick hit a go-ahead shot to send a game to overtime in one of the games in her career that, you know, was kind of her putting together everything that we have been waiting for in terms of, you know, finishing ability, in terms of self-creation, in terms of defense. I mean, the defense has always been there, but when you're gonna, you know, like be able to help and recover on a player like Sanaya Rivers, who is a likely WNBA player, I think it's I think that had to be tough to swallow as a Chicago fan. If you watched that Notre Dame game in the morning and you were getting really hyped up about potentially having Sonia Citron on your team, and then you trade the number 3 pick for Ariel Atkins. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, like to me, this kind of comes down to how you feel about Sony's ceiling. And I've gone back and forth on it. I think her ceiling is pretty close to where Ariel Atkins is right now, but she's also one of those types of players that I could see her continually just finding ways to improve incrementally in ways that we don't necessarily immediately think about, especially when you consider her length. Maybe she could go in and you know, add a post-up game by the time that she's 28. But the place where I've landed, and this is before we even talk about the 2027 pick swap, which I think is another element of this. If you're Chicago and you're thinking about contending for championships for the decade that you have Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese, and I understand that there's a little impatience there. They want to win now. But if you're thinking about what your true window can be, you realistically want to be able to have a player who can guard the wing and guard Caitlin Clark for the next 10 years. And I think Sonia Citron would have been great to do that. I think Ariel Atkins is going to be really great to do that for the next 3 or 4 years if she stays. If you know that she's on a 1-year deal, 2026 is God knows what's happening in 2026 for anybody. But I think I've gone back and forth. I've landed back onto the side of, I think they gave up a little bit too much. I think they rushed things. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to bite them too much. I think we'll see what happens with, you know, the pick swaps and everything, and who even declares for the draft. Maybe Olivia goes back and Sony goes in number 2. Like there's all these different factors that we still have to see, but right now that's kind of where I'm at.
All right. So I understand the impulse from Chicago's perspective, especially if you're in a place with Camilla and Angel, where I wouldn't say it's a mandate to the front office, but it's an effort to say, we're tired of losing. We're not used to losing. Win now. Like, let's get people in here to help our roster start to win now. I understand that component. I understand the desire to make it look like you're trying ahead of 2026's free agency. But Shawnee, am I going crazy here? Because just if you put a shovel in the ground and build the damn facility, it's going to do as much, if not more, than be like, hey, we traded for Ariel Atkins 2025. We're not the sky of old here. Like, just put the shovel in the ground, and it's like you're achieving the same thing and showing how much you care.
No, do that. Definitely put the shovel, get the scissors, the big ribbon scissors, like
The
get those out.
quickies, yes.
Yeah, like have that on deck. But I get it though, because I'm kind of like I hate to bring this up because it might be like a far-fetched comparison, but it's just like if you're a Pistons fan, right? And you draft Darko Milicic over Carmelo Anthony, but it's like then y'all won a championship because like it worked out. So I'm kind of like I get it if you put the pieces to win now, and then y'all make a solid playoff run, and then you can look at free agents and be like, hey, you could be what we need. We could easily get rid of one of these people. Like we're not married to them, so come to death row. Keep Rebecca Allen though. That's a Sabrina stopper. Like you're gonna need that. Not like playoff time, because Sabrina stops herself. But I'm just saying during the regular season, like you're gonna need that.
Shawnee, I have written that it has been blank days since you slandered Sabrina Ionescu. So we are just going to reset the Sabrina meter back to 0. Beck Allen, great defender of anybody and everybody in this league. We look at everybody in an even-handed way. But do you think Chicago has the ability here? Because my thing is this, right? I look at Atlanta and all the moves that Atlanta made, and it feels like the ceiling of Atlanta is still like a 5 seed. Like, is Chicago like what
Atlanta's doing?
That's what I mean. Like, what is Chicago's ceiling here, though? Like, yes, you add Atkins, but what realistically is the highest playoff ceiling that you have, assuming the natural progression for Camilla and Angel continues and doesn't become this like they stratospherically jump in year 2?
I think they battle in Atlanta for that 5. Like, I don't think this is still a championship roster, but you still, like this season with Indiana, right? You want to get to the playoffs. You want to go ahead and like get that out the way and get that experience in. And, little things like not being able to make it back home for your first home playoff game, that sticks with you, that, motivates you, that makes you hungry. Stuff like that, they still need that experience. So even if it's not like, we're going to the chip, like, be in contention for like a home spot, maybe get that 5, feel good about yourself, do you attract some free agents, but get the shovel out for real. So keep the shovel out.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to bury Jeff if this don't work, so keep the shovel out.
Who do you think will have a worse time of this if Sonia Citron, for instance, like I'm just assuming that is 3. I know, yeah, like you said, Seerat, like Olivia could go back to school and then like Sonia probably goes 2.
Paige could be 3. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Just a fact check here. Paige has now said that her plan is to go pro. Just wanted to add that in there.
3. I'm thinking of like a trade that would potentially even get her at 3, and I can't think of one right now. Maybe
it would have to be Camilla or Angel. Maybe both.
Exactly.
Like,
but with that in mind, like it just Jeff is going to get the Nico Harrison treatment if Sonia turns out to be like incredible at pick 3, and Atkins is like body breaks down at 29, and all of a sudden you're like, we could have had an all WNBA 2-way player, and now we have to figure out what to do for the back portion of our 2 best players' rookie deals. But the thing for me is like, I get the vet move just because it feels aces coded, right? Like the whole component when it comes to what made Vegas so good is leveraging their 3 players that were on team deals in Asia Wilson, KP, and Jackie Young. And then you put a bunch of veterans around them. You keep retooling the roster around vets. It feels aces-ish, Seerat, does it not?
You mentioned 3 players there, though, right?
That's fair.
And one of them was Asia Wilson. And I think the world of what Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese can be, but we're just not there yet. So, yeah, I wonder if they have over-indexed a little bit on trying to be some of the things that they weren't last year, right? Like they didn't bring back Kennedy Carter. Then they bring in a bunch of vets who are going to be pretty good for the locker room, and Rebecca Allen, and Kia Nurse, and Courtney Vandersloot. and as you wrote for in 5 Out today, there is an appetite from Angel and Camilla to not have things go the same way as it went last year. So that's definitely understandable, but at the same time, I felt like they actually had already set themselves up pretty well, to Shawnee's point at the beginning of the pod, to put themselves in a position where they would go basically as far as Camilla and Angel could take them. Like, this is a team where if Camilla and Angel make the jump that you're hoping for, and I think Camilla in particular is prime for a huge jump, just considering how injury prone she was in her first year and how inconsistent that season was, and just having to miss the beginning of the year, which is huge for rookies. Like, if there's any time that you're going to miss, that's going to really, really set back your development. It's the beginning of the year and the ability to like go through all of camp and all those things, right? So I think she could just, by virtue of that and everything that we're seeing overseas right now from her like make a huge leap. And I think like for that would have sufficed, I think, just to see, because you were going to see forward progress no matter what.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there's no doubt, just given the way that the second half of the season went for them after the Mabry trade and the Kennedy injury and Angel and everything that was going on, like with Spood and everything. Like, it was going to, by virtue of bringing in Tyler Marsh and a little bit of stability, and hopefully the injuries not being quite as calamitous as they were last year, it was going to be better no matter what. So I don't know. It's just like they were really well positioned. They were really well positioned before they made this deal, because if they were able to have that number 3 pick, the pick would have been cost controlled going into 2026. So they could have been potentially like the Fever were this year. It's not like the Fever had to make this deep run or like go to the second round or like go to the finals in order to attract all these free agents. What they did was they got to the playoffs and they didn't even win a game. And they could have Chicago, I think, was already poised to kind of sneak into that 8th seed. They would have been a fight, and everybody's trying to win this year, which that's another sort of layer to this that I question overall. But they could have already done that, and they could have been really well positioned to say, hey, look, the shovels are digging. The shovels are in the ground right now. Our franchise pillars have taken a leap. We made the playoffs, or we got close to making the playoffs. We showed growth, and now we have all of this money to play with, and 3 stars who are going to be making less than $90,000 I think up until the end of 2028 for whoever's going to be picked here. In a cap that, like, I don't know, the cap's going to triple? I think the cap could easily triple, in my opinion. Like, the media rights deal tripled. Like
3 to 5x, yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, it's if it goes 5x and you're looking at some of these rookie deals and you're like, holy crap. Right? You're saying that anyway. So to me, like, that's the biggest aspect of all of this is you would have had a good player cost controlled up until 2028. And you could have done stuff with that even beyond 2026.
Okay, but counterpoint. Culture matters, right? So if everybody is like, if the team is imploding on itself, because they could have made the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. It was just some little things down the stretch. And like, when you're a young team in that rebuilding mode, those little mistakes, they matter. Because that's, like, again, the difference between like making the playoffs and missing them, or like, being a 6 seed and missing the playoffs. So it's like, if you had to clean house to really like make the stars happy, make the stars comfortable, get them in line with what we're trying to do, get a new vision, get the organization like facing the right direction. I get it, because it's like, yes, you can keep this, you have the talent on paper, but like, if it's an actuality thing where it's like real world Sky, and you got like this weird mascot coming around making everyone uncomfortable, and now they need
to fix immediately. Like, they're talking about changing the culture, like that had to be step one.
Why would I come here with
any movement on that front yet?
You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I want to come with a fake Ellie knockoff, Timu Ellie? Like, no, thank you. I'm good on that. So it's like, on paper, it can all look really good, but like, if it's forcing people to like want out or like be on Twitter saying whatever, and it's like, now you're causing all of this stuff and the franchise is imploding and we never reach our potential anyway. Now we're scaring the hoes and it's like we're not achieving the goal. So I understand like you might have to knock off a floor to like build the house up.
What if that happens anyway, though? Because this is the trend, isn't it? Like, you give up a bunch of stuff for Clea Copper. You give a bunch of stuff up for Marina Mabry. Where are those players now? Candace Parker, now she's retired, but she went to Las Vegas, where I guess she was a free agent. So, I mean, that doesn't count.
But okay, here's the thing. You give up stuff for Copper, right? Copper got you a championship. She was finals MVP.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So I like in
That's
the long
true. You
run,
live with all of that.
That
yeah.
worked.
Mm-hmm.
Mayberry, that could have worked. But again, the locker room stuff, it wasn't working. So she's like, yeah, I want to win now. And oddly enough, she went to Connecticut to do that. But
I was gonna say,
if it was a good move at the time, it was a good move at the time.
It hasn't aged all that great, but
yeah. By the way, the only reason I feel like the only reason she's still on that team is because of the pick swap at this point.
Oh yeah,
like those guys just want to move more games in Chicago.
Hate fuels a lot of things, and I like that. Get them to more wins just off pure hatred. But I've never believed in any ideation of the Connecticut Sun, so I was kind of like interesting.
Do you think that? So if you're Marina Mabry, you're pissed that your franchise did not honor your trade request, so you could mail the year in. However, if you have a really good year, then that makes the draft pick of the team that you just left less valuable. So then are you motivated by the fact that you could actually by having a great year spite the Chicago Sky?
Yes.
Ooh,
I would be the biggest because on top of that, I'm gonna get paid now. Because she has to repair her image bit, because like forcing your way, mind you, it's like a 12-team, 13 league. You know, you can't force your way to have.
Yeah, we're approaching 25% of the league at this point.
So at some point,
it's a fair point. I mean, between her and Kennedy, it's like half the league has been. I think she's fine though. I don't like she's what she does is pretty valuable coming off the bench, and
it is.
I think
but
it's
not
pretty understandable why she would want out of this Connecticut team when you wanted to contend. It's all pretty consistent with what she's wanted for most of her career. But to your point, it does set her up for a nice bag when everybody's gonna have one to give out.
Yeah, but it still is like your goals regardless. Like you still try to, homie hop to like half the league. You gotta sit still.
That is crazy.
Wow.
That is a crazy way to characterize.
Wow.
Sorry.
Johnny, it is 2025. Okay. Like we this is the era of player empowerment. Okay.
I'm like trying to think of artful euphemisms for that could work in a basketball context.
I'm not shooting guard shaming.
Yeah. I was going to say franchise flyer, but that doesn't seem to fit either. You know what's crazy is like, apologies in advance. You know what's crazy is I do think it is a big misnomer that people are looking at Mabry and Atkins counting stats as like an indication that you're basically trading for the same player. It's like, 15, 3 and 3. Like no, man, totally different players. And Atkins is a significant bump net positive on the defensive side of the ball more than Mabry is. And Mabry's a good defender, but Atkins is a literal all WNBA defender. So I like the choice. I think we're all settled on like a with a sprinkling of ethical hate in our choice of this offseason.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think there's consequences. Should we talk about the 2027 pick aspect of it, or?
Yeah, I'm down. Yeah. I mean, I will say this for 2027's pick. Yes, that draft is going to be deep, but I think if it feels like it did with last year's draft, where if you don't have a lottery pick, you're kind of just drafting in the same way. It's like four generational players and then some solid players underneath it.
There's also the fact that these players like Camilla and Angel are going to be in their third year by then. Like you would have to be actively sabotaging situations in order to still land in the lottery, and factor in that Toronto and Portland are going to be in the mix. The Valkyries are going to be in the mix. It's just going to be really hard to be that bad when you have that much talent already. Like sometimes, look, I get it. It's a great draft, but sometimes you miss a boat on these things. Like your timeline is just different.
Yeah, I 100% feel that. Shawnee, I know it is like it's the Juju Hidalgo, potentially Latson.
That year.
Yeah.
That year. Woo. I thought that was 28.
Maddie Booker, Malaysia Fulwiley,
Michaela Williams, right? Yeah.
Yep. Michaela Williams is in that draft too. Like
it's a really good draft.
Yeah, it's going to be nice, but I still think that unless you are there's a drop off in like generational to all-star level of player, and I feel like we're going to see that in that one.
You also might not be as good. Sorry, just the last thing. Like,
no, do it.
The Mystics are going to be really bad, so the pick swap might not matter.
Yeah, the Mystics also though. I kind of like the flip side concept where like they have 3, 4, 6 in this draft and all of a sudden turn it into like a core that can actually contend to win titles. The funniest, the funniest outcome here is the Mystics turn this into like the next dynasty.
Hey, hold up. If they take EDD's back out of storage, right? Charge that bad boy up. Give her one last run with some young legs around her to like hold her up, you know. I don't want her on my team because everybody kept saying like, "Oh, EDD to Vegas," and I was like, "For what? Like, please be for real here." But I think it's a cute story for the Mystics, not for me, but for the Mystics. I think that's a cute little, you know, farewell tour type deal. You know, one last run because they were a very competitive dead last team last year. Granted,
they were the world's
rookie.
They were the world's most competitive, like 0-17 team I've ever seen.
Well, they were a win away from making like sports history with how bad of a start that they had. If they had made the playoffs, that would have been the biggest comeback in professional American sports.
Oh yeah, and like 3/4 of the losses were like single digits too. It was wild.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's those type of things carry over into the next season. They learn how to compete, and then you have Shakira and Unrivaled, and then you have Aaliyah, like not just like skill wise, but confidence wise, coming in saying like, "I'm one of those ones." You know, like Gino wasn't. I can't talk about Gino right now, but like y'all slept on me. You know what I'm saying? I'm her. You have that mentality. You have the skill sets. Now combined, you have the pieces. EDD, man, stop playing with your giant dogs. Put down your woodwork. Like it's time to work, sister. Let's go.
She's having a good time. She's the biggest argument for why this cap needs to spike because these handcuffs are not golden enough for her, and that's a problem.
No, we need a little something to bring her back. Woodworking just can't do it, man. The people ask. The
people need her.
The people demand. So the craziest thing about what is to come in this draft too is I feel like someone is going to make a rash decision based on how this tournament goes, in my opinion, right? Like if say like Olivia Miles or Sonia Citron like have an incredible tournament relative to Paige Beckers or even vice versa, there's going to be dialogue